What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a spoiler discussion for Demon Slayer, the movie, Mugen Train. With me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I wasn't able to watch this movie until Monday later, just the weekend after it premiered. But yeah, but overall, I am surprised on how successful this movie was, even through last year, throughout the pandemic period. It literally made what was it, like, I think over $450 million worldwide, and it somehow surpassed I think another popular anime film. I think it was Spirited Away, which was released back in 2001, which is pretty impressive for a movie that's not even anime original. It's pretty much based off an anime arc. Well, not an anime, a manga arc in the storyline.
Yeah, it's just a follow up to the series.
But my main issue with this movie is, why did it need to be a movie? I mean, personally, in my opinion, it could have been possibly maybe a half-core season if they wanted to, but for whatever reason, they decided to make this story arc that's adapted from an arc from the manga into a movie itself. And
yeah, but my question is, would it have been long enough to be like a half season or however long? I mean, I don't know if it would have worked as a series as opposed to as a movie, considering how long the story arc might have been in the manga. So I mean, I don't know. I guess it depends on how long it was in the manga, because it could have been this long in the manga as it is, and however long in the manga as it is in the movie. I mean, but then again, maybe there's a lot of stuff the movie could have cut out from the manga. I'm not really sure how it is as an adaptation.
I mean, I would think that they could have added a little more to the story, like particularly the Rengoku story arc in this movie.
That is one of the criticisms I had for the movie, was that it felt like Rengoku didn't really have a lot of screen time in the series. So we get to learn more about who he is in the movie, but I still wish we could have gotten a little bit more about him.
Yeah, because he definitely pretty much carry this film, pretty much the entire way. Like I know Tanjiro's like the main character and all, but it just, I mean, pretty much I would say the first half focused on Tanjiro a bit, and then of course the second half of the film focused more on Rengoku's side of the story.
Yeah, I mean, because of the whole dream thing. So yeah, because basically this movie picks up right where the series, the end of the first season left, the series left off, where they all board the train. And then, of course, at the end of the series, we got the tease for Enmu. But of course, in the movie, he's the main, pretty much the main villain throughout most of it. And we learn about what he can do, which is, of course, he puts everybody on the train to sleep. And we also learned that he's, like I mentioned in my review, that he's working with this group of humans that supposedly is working with him because they want to have their wishes granted, which is to have these, I guess, to live in basically live in a dream where they still have their deceased loved ones are still alive, kind of like what we saw with Tanjiro's dream.
Yeah,
and that was one of the better parts of the movie, I thought, is that when we saw Tanjiro's dream and we see his family, and basically it's sort of like a what if scenario, like what if his family weren't killed at the beginning of the series.
Yeah, because it mostly focused on Tanjiro's guilt of not letting go of his failure to save his family back at the start of the series.
Yeah,
and that and pretty much he still pretty much regrets that that he wasn't able to save them in time due to the fact that he was away in an errand at the time of the story. But yeah, it's more or less more like a what if scenario if his family was still alive and he was still working on selling coal into town. But what he also notices that initially Nezuko is not even in the dream for whatever reason. until pretty much very late into that dream sequence. But yeah, but both like I think both Inosuke and Zenitsu's dream were more comedic in tone, because like Zenitsu's dream is like he wants to be Nezuko's protector, which is pretty funny at times. I mean, he still has the hots for Nezuko, even when he first met her back in season 1. Inosuke, I mean, well, there's nothing to say about Inosuke. He just, like, in his mind, he views himself as the main character of the story, even after he gets out of the dream that he gets trapped in. I mean, well, yeah, he pretty much views like Tanjiro and Zenitsu as his underlings, including, same goes with Nezuko, and they're fighting. What was it? This demon version of the train that they boarded earlier. But that's in terms of that, that's pretty much it. Rengoku's dream is a little bit more detailed of what his backstory is. That we find out that his mother died at an early age, and his father has been pretty like apathetic since those events, and whatever Rengoku tried to do to try to gain his approval, nothing seemed to work, even after Rengoku became a Flame Hashira.
Yeah, and I mean they also focus on the relationship with his brother, and it seemed like his brother looks up to him, and Rengoku tells him, you can be whoever you want to be, and you don't have to be like me. So yeah, like but that's pretty much like the most that we get from his backstory. Like, I mean, we also learned that he is apparently has also like trained his brother in like combat, I guess. But yeah, while all the characters are having these dreams, of course, these children are like trying to invade their dreams and I guess destroy the core of their dreams. Now I kind of forgot, like, so if they destroy the core, did they just not wake up again, or like, did they just not wake up from their dreams, or
it doesn't, it's hard to say like what would have happened. I mean, I would assume Enmu assumes that or states that they would have died if their cores are destroyed, or maybe they might have been trapped in their dreams forever, but it wasn't clear if like what would have happened, because none of the 4 people that invaded like all the characters' dreams were successful in the end.
No.
I mean, the girl who tried to who nearly destroyed Rengoku's core was somehow, like, while Rengoku was asleep, he pretty much strangled her, like while just shortly before she was able to stab the core. For Tanjiro's case, well, for the person who invaded Tanjiro, like, manages to get into like this dimensional realm of where his core is at, but he doesn't go through with it, because it's hard to tell, because his, like, Tanjiro's like good-natured fairies or spirits guides him to the core, and this guy has second thoughts of of wanting to destroy it and doesn't go through it anyway. In the case for Inosuke's and Zenitsu's intruders, like, they had like absolutely no success in trying to find the cores, because the guy invading Zenitsu's core like just gets into an empty space, facing off against Zenitsu, who pretty much wants Nezuko for himself and sees like another man as like competition. As for Inosuke, he just the girl like invading Inosuke's dream like absolutely has no success, because Inosuke just ends up chasing after her all over the place, so she wasn't able to find it. But what really helps wake the rest of them up is thanks to Nezuko, who was still inside the box the entire time that they were on the train. So she of course she does initially find them asleep, and she has some initially she had some trouble trying to wake them up, but she was able to do it after like she used her like exploding blood flaming technique that she used back in the end of season 1 to help actually gain awareness from his dream and then eventually help him wake up from that dream.
Yeah, she basically tries to use it on all the, at first she uses it on Tanjiro, and then she then tries to use it on all the other characters who are still asleep.
Yeah, and of course Tanjiro like gains awareness shortly afterwards. But then, of course, he tries to get away from the dream, but of course his family tries chasing after him, and initially he feels regret of having to leave the dream, but of course he comes to the realization that he has to let them go in order to move on. So the way he manages to get out of the dream is to commit suicide by literally just slitting his own neck.
Yeah, and then I think after that he tells he says the only way for the others to get out of the dream is wasn't it for them to commit suicide as well or something, and that was the only way they could actually get out of the dream.
However, there's no way for him to communicate towards them while they're sleeping. So he has a Nezuko try to wake them up by using the same exploding blood technique that she used on him. So hopefully that'll end up working to help wake up the other three. So Tanjiro ends up taking it upon himself to go after the demon in front of the train, which is of course Enmu, which leads into like a pretty decent fight scene between the two. Of course, Enmu tries to get Tanjiro to fall asleep again, but Tanjiro, as soon as Tanjiro like gets affected by Enmu's spell, he immediately wakes up from it by committing suicide in the dream again.
Yeah, he does this multiple times because Enmu ends up putting him asleep quite a few times, and Tanjiro has to end up just committing suicide each time.
Yeah. However, like the one dream that that Enmu puts Tanjiro in is like in a completely different dream that he had before, was that his entire family, including his father, completely blame him for their deaths at the beginning of the series. Of course, this only enrages Tanjiro, stating that that Enmu's only putting words in their mouth, and that they would never really blame Tanjiro for what happened earlier on in the series. So he does somehow manage to successfully behead Enmu, but of course this doesn't really kill him. And what we find out later, that Enmu actually fused his entire being onto the train itself.
Yeah, his body's part of the train. So,
I don't know. What did you think of the whole this whole CG aspect with Enmu, being fused into the train?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, of course, once Enmu, once you find out he's part of the train, he uses a lot of these, these tentacle attacks, or these tentacles, and all. They're of course all of them are CG. It doesn't look bad. Like I've seen worse CG. There is a lot of CG, once you, with the, I would say, I guess the second phase of this fight with Enmu, because of the form he takes. He's just this kind of flesh monster, and a lot of that is just rendered in CG.
Yeah, literally all over the, the train. But as soon as after that battle's over, Nezuko successfully manages to get Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Rengoku out of their dreamlike state, and they manage to gain awareness of what's going on. So they manage to help cover like a huge portion of each part of the train, while Tanjiro and eventually Inosuke try to find where Enmu's core is.
Yeah. They of course eventually discover it's the head of the train, I think.
Yeah. And of course, and of course, like they actually find like this gigantic like neck bone like placed into the train, which I'm surprised it's actually that big. But initially they do have some trouble like trying to get through it, because Enmu's doing everything he can to try to block them from slicing that thing open. and he uses the exact same technique on Tanjiro earlier on top of the train by using his eyes to put him to sleep over and over and over again. But of course, Tanjiro once again uses the same technique to commit suicide in the dream, but it almost nearly gets Tanjiro to commit suicide in the real world as well before Inosuke catches him before he does that.
Yeah, because the this creature has like multiple different eyes that if you look into it, it'll put you to sleep. So like Tanjiro's like, you need to have your eyes closed and not look into it, or it'll put you to sleep.
And but fortunately for Inosuke, he couldn't go to sleep because and Enmu has trouble trying. Yeah, because he's constantly wearing that boar mask, like the entirety of the series. I mean, we rarely even see him take it off. So it's what helped both Inosuke and Tanjiro to open up this the neck part of the train and manage to cut it open. With Tanjiro using the flame breathing technique he used against Rui back in the end of season 1.
Yeah, we also see the conductor at the head of the train too. And
before like Tanjiro cuts, decapitates Enmu, like the conductor manages to stab Tanjiro in the abdomen, which pretty much incapacitates Tanjiro shortly after. He decapitates Enmu once and for all, and this leads the entire train to completely derail. I'm surprised that they managed to save like everyone in that train.
Oh yeah.
After that, that entire train like completely derails.
Yeah, and of course we also find out that the conductor is one of another person that apparently wanted to have, his wish granted within a dream, like the other children that we saw earlier.
Yeah, but unfortunately for the conductor, he has his leg completely crushed underneath one of the train cars. So
karma, I would say.
Yeah, but of course, like I said earlier, because of that, the abdomen wound that Tanjiro has, like he's pretty much nearly bleeding to death or bleeding to exhaustion. Shortly before Rengoku comes in and pretty much teaches Tanjiro to use his breathing to halt the bleeding process. Yeah,
and we also see the remnants of Enmu. Like we see that he's barely alive at this point because we see part of the fleshy creature that he was like just come out of the train and like reach his hand out and just like pretty much lament like what's become of him. Honestly, it reminded me a little bit of what happens with Envy and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, where he just becomes this like little pathetic creature, and he's just like, how could a human defeat me, basically?
Yeah, I mean, Enmu is much different than the other demons that we've seen throughout the entirety of the season 1, because if we remember, like all the other demons that Tanjiro fought had like a deep backstory within them that that we give him a little sympathy because of like what they became. For Enmu's case, like his only regret that he wasn't able to kill as many people as possible, and that is like it's hard. It's really hard to feel any sympathy for something like that, unfortunately.
That was the problem. Like he didn't really get any sort of a backstory. Really, he was just kind of. He was pretty much as evil and sadistic as he could be. Like there wasn't really anything sympathetic about him. And I mean, the same could also be argued for this other villain that does show up at the end too. Like we don't really get to know anything about this person either, or this demon.
He said his name is Akaza.
Akaza,
he's one of the upper moon, like the upper moon 3 demon of the the 12, what I forgot what the 12 were. I mean it's like one of the top 12 system. But unfortunately, like if you remember, like Muzan eliminated the lower ranking demons just because like he viewed them as like insufficient to deal with the Hashiras. So he the only ones he spared were the remaining 6 who are the higher ups.
Yeah.
But yeah, Akaza just like literally just comes out of nowhere, and it pretty much comes down to just Akaza and Rengoku facing off against each other, which leads to like a pretty dramatic fight scene in the end, which they just completely like go at blows against each other. But no matter how many times Rengoku ends up like hurting Akaza, he just completely regenerates every single time. Like no, like even when he loses a limb, he just instantly just pops a new one back open.
Yeah, the only thing that I really picked up on with Akaza is that he's one of those characters that really kind of lives for the thrill of the fight, I guess you could say, because he really wants Rengoku to become a demon, so that they can continue fighting with Rengoku having like no human limitations.
Yeah, but of course Rengoku like flat out refuses every offer that Akaza gives him.
Yeah.
But yeah, this eventually like gets to a point where Rengoku like is repeatedly getting injured in different parts of his body. His left eye supposedly gets shattered by one of Akaza's punches. His abdomen gets hit like several times, including having several broken ribs and somewhat. But it gets to the point where Rengoku like nearly lands a killing blow on him, but unfortunately Akaza manages to get the fatal blow on him by literally impaling his entire arm through his abdomen. And I initially thought that this was over, but Rengoku like pretty much like has this last gasp by just like literally just almost decapitating him near the end, but decides to just hold him until like the sun comes up in the end. And this pretty much leaves like Akaza in panic mode at that point, and he tries to get away, but he has trouble trying to get away thanks to Rengoku trying to hold him down. But he does manage to get away when he rips both of his arms and runs away into the forest before the sun comes up.
Yeah, like Tanjiro tries to chase after him and tries to deal some kind of like a finishing blow, but he doesn't manage to kill him before he gets away.
Yeah, pretty much Tanjiro angrily calls him a coward for just running away like that, and he pretty much like, even though Rengoku is dying from that fatal wound, he pretty much declares Rengoku the winner of that fight just because Akaza just pretty much ran away like a coward.
Yeah, and I mean, when you think about it too, like, Akaza kind of just has way too much of an advantage over him in the first place with his regenerative abilities. If he didn't have that, then yeah, Rengoku would probably have won. But yeah, I think that fight in general was probably, I mean, the animation for the fight scene with Enbo was great too, but I honestly thought this was like the best part of the movie, to be honest, in terms of the fight scenes. This is probably probably the best one, because it really felt like the animation was on par with episode 19, with how it was animated.
Yeah.
But yeah, so of course there's this really just long emotional scene with Rengoku dying and talking to Tanjiro and Inosuke. And I think one of his last requests is like that Tanjiro go and like talk to his brother.
He gives Rengoku gives Tanjiro information to learn more about the flame breathing technique that his father ended up learning before he passed away. So
yeah,
Rengoku, Rengoku mentions that there's something like in his home mansion that there might be something that may be of use to him, but he also mentions to tell his father and his brother of what happened to him, and pretty much like encourage his brother to follow his heart and live his own life, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm guessing we're probably going to get this in season 2.
Yeah, this is more. Yeah, this is more setup for season 2. If we're completely honest, I mean, the movie just pretty much ends abruptly with like with Tanjiro and the others mourning Rengoku. We do see like all the other Hashiras in this movie, but they really have like a very small cameo role.
Yeah, like I mean, yeah, we actually saw, like, I actually forgot because it's been a little while since I've saw the series. I forgot who he was at first, but I think it was like the head of the Demon Slayers, like we see in the very beginning of the movie, where he's like, where he's talking, and then we also see the other Hashiras, of course, at the end of the movie where they're all being notified of Rengoku's death.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't really, that's the only time we really see them in the movie. I will say, like, so I saw the English dub. I didn't mention this in my review, but yeah, the dub was actually pretty, I mean, I've only seen like parts of it from the series, but from what I saw or heard from it in the movie, I will say the dub was really good. Like, the acting was surprisingly on point. I thought, especially during the emotional scenes, like with Rengoku's death, who was, I think, Zach Aguirre, who's voicing Tanjiro.
Zach Aguilar.
He did a really good job, I thought, with the delivery, you know, of how emotional he was getting. Like, you could tell with his line delivery, like, you know, how good that was. I thought the voice acting in general was pretty good in this movie. I didn't really have any complaints about it.
Yeah, Zach Aguilar's like becoming a pretty decent voice actor lately. I think one of the first notable roles that I've seen him in is he did.
Wasn't he in like Fire Emblem?
He did Fire Emblem, but the first notable one for an anime that I seen him in is who played Sieg in Fate Apocrypha.
Oh, right.
I mean, he did a decent job as that character, but I think like he
the problem with that character is that, like, you know, Sieg was kind of, he didn't really emote too much, so like I feel like that character probably didn't push him as much as an actor. But with Tanjiro, like, he seems to emote quite a bit, so I think it's a bit more of a demanding role. At least it would seem that way.
I think Zach Aguilar, you know, is getting pretty decent amount of roles lately after his I would say like his role as Tanjiro is pretty much broken through. With you know, based on what the character goes through and, like, you know, how he acts in certain situations. But yeah, the movie, like, the movie does, you know, like I said earlier, like, the movie just ends like with Tanjiro and the others mourning Rengoku, and that's pretty much it. You see the credits, and there's no end credit scene afterwards. And
yeah, I was kind of waiting for one. I was also a little bit surprised at how, like, the ending, like you said, did seem a little bit abrupt. I didn't mind it, but yeah, it did seem kind of like it just ended right there, and I was expecting a little bit more, but yeah, that's pretty much all we got for how it ends.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately,
ends
like,
on a pretty somber note too, when you think about it. Like,
it does. I mean, it's one of the things why I had issues as to why it needed to be a movie in the first place, because how like of where it initially starts and how it ended, and now we, I mean, fortunately we won't have to wait too long to see season 2, which is supposedly going to be premiering this fall. But I would assume like season 2 will probably start where this movie leaves off. So yeah, I mean, one of the other issues I had with this movie was, like, it doesn't recap all that much of what happened before. Like, normally when we see movies like these, they usually recap of things that happened early on in this series, and they give you information of who these characters are, but it doesn't really give you that.
Yeah, actually, I didn't know this, but I actually had to look it up. Apparently, I think there were some recap movies that Demon Slayer had, but they're recap movies, so.
I mean, you would just, like, literally just watch the entire series itself, and then the end, the last episode of season 1 is just literally just before this movie starts. So but yeah, I mean, was it a good movie? Absolutely. Did I think that it needed to be a movie in the first place? Probably not. I mean,
I guess it could have been like an OVA or something, but I can't see it being like even a 13 episode series or anything like that. Like, I mean, unless, like I said, there's a lot of stuff it cut out from the manga, but I kind of doubt it did. With all the praise it's getting, I have a hard time believing it really cut that much out. So if we're taking that into consideration, then yeah, like, it, if not a movie, then maybe like a 2 to maybe even 3 episode OVA or something like that. But yeah, that's the only other option I would think it could be.
Yeah, I think the 3 episode OVA would have would have benefited just as much. I mean, personally, I would have loved for them to expand more on Rengoku just a little bit, unless if they are going to do an OVA for him eventually. But
I think they could continue possibly to expand on him in season 2 after his death. Maybe we'll learn more about him or something. But I still kind of have a problem with that because I feel like I said in my review, that like, you know, a lot of the emotional scenes like revolve around his death. Like there's a lot of time spent with characters mourning his death in this movie. And like, I mean, I get that he was supposed to be this important character, but it's like I said before, like I feel like he should have been on screen much longer, and we should have learned more about him. We should have had more time to get attached to his character before this movie. But you know, it's really only at the end of the series and in this movie that we really get to learn anything about him. So like when he dies, it's like, it's not that it's not emotional, but I feel like it could have been much better, you know, had we just had more time to get attached to him as a character.
Yeah, I mean, I really felt like they probably could have added like a Rengoku funeral scene at the end, but they just decided not to do that. I mean, unless you know, unless if it was intentional, you know, that like supposedly if season 2 starts, it's gonna immediately pick up where the movie leaves off, and then it's gonna move on from there.
I have a feeling it probably will, but I can't say for sure. I know that season 2 is definitely going to have that one Hashira that we saw in the movie, but yeah, I don't really know when how season 2 is going to start. But yeah, like as with how this movie ends, I would agree. I think it could have ended in a more conclusive manner as opposed to how it kind of just abruptly sort of seemed to have cut off.
Yeah. I mean, we have it gives us an idea of what to expect for season 2. Like just based on what Rengoku tells Tanjiro, like to go to his home mansion and learn more about the fire breathing technique, and eventually of like Rengoku's expectations of Tanjiro becoming the next Hashira or something.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't really have too much else to say about it. Like I would definitely agree it was a great movie. I'm just I guess the real question is like, does it really live up to all the hype, and like does it deserve all the money it's been getting at the box office? I mean I would say so. It's not a disappointing movie by any means.
Yeah,
but then again, it's not I can't think of anime movies I have enjoyed more than this one. Not to say it's bad, but I'm just like trying to compare it to like other movies, anime movies I've seen.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's better than like the 3 Heaven's Feel movies that we've seen.
That's the one example that really comes to mind is the Heaven's Feel movies. Like I would definitely say like I enjoyed Heaven's Feel Part 3 significantly more than this movie, but I don't know if that's necessarily a fair comparison because like I don't know. I mean it is another thing Ufotable worked on. So
yeah, I mean I know, but the entirety of this movie just takes place on this train.
Yeah, that's another thing. The setting is pretty much just the train.
Yeah, while like all other films that we've seen like have like an expanded world to explore. While like I said, this, yeah, I mean it's a good movie, but the only criticism I have is like did it need to be a movie in the first place, and the fact that it only took place on the train itself the entirety of this film.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only thing I would say that's kind of a negative about it, I guess, is like the setting's pretty much just the train. But I don't know. It's more of a mixed thing for me. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but
I mean, yeah. I mean, we're not saying it's a bad movie. It's just it's just like my issue is like how they went about having to release this in this format. I mean, out of 10, how would you rate this?
I'm really trying to decide between an 8 or a 9. I mean, I mean, the movie looks incredible. The soundtrack is pretty much on point, like with the series. It's pretty much the same soundtrack, same music. Animations is, I mean, it's hard for me to say if it's better than the series. Like it looks about the same. Like there are some scenes where I would say maybe it looks a little bit better, but it's really hard to tell.
Honestly, I can't really find anything different about its animation style based, compared to.
Yeah, I mean, considering this has a movie budget, but it's really kind of hard to tell. I guess I would have to settle on an 8 just because like there are some problems I have with it, but they're not huge problems, but I do think it is kind of enough to, I guess, for me at least, leave it at an 8. Like I would give it a 9, but I feel like it's more of an 8 in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like it's hovering between 7 or an 8 because it's like it's a good movie. I like the animation. I love the story. I love the characters. And the emotion is really there. It's just like I said, my only issue with this film is why it needed to be a movie in the first place. I mean, if it was probably maybe like a 3 or 4 episode OVA, then maybe they could have expanded a little bit more on Rengoku. But we would have liked that a bit more out of this. But I mean, overall, it was still good for what it is. For a feature length film, and it was like, if you're a fan of the Demon Slayer series, definitely go watch this film.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you like like I said in my review too, like if you like the series, then you're probably gonna love the movie. I mean, the movie's not really any different as to what you'd be getting in the series. So
yeah,
I mean, yeah, but yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about this movie. I don't know if you've got anything else to.
I mean, I guess we'll definitely have to look forward to season 2, which is gonna hopefully be premiering this fall if all things go on schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to season 2. I mean, like I said before, maybe we'll get more opportunity to have Rengoku develop some more as a character after his death. I'm definitely interested to see what's going to happen with his brother, because it seems like they were kind of setting that up to be where it might be somewhat of a plot point in season 2. But yeah, I guess we'll just have to see. I'm not a manga reader, so I'm not exactly sure what's going to come next. But yeah, that all being said, until next time, we will see you all later.